So getting into the football returning, we know German football's back. They've got a definite date and schedule now, which is something that we can all look forward to. In terms of English football, Lucas, UK now has the highest death toll from coronavirus, unfortunately, in Europe. And there seems to be two very different sides as to whether football should return. The ones that want to see it and the ones that think that we shouldn't even be thinking about football until, there's a vaccine or we've got this under control. Some very different rule changes, which I want to speak to you about first. So there was an article from the Telegraph, and they said, so they're going to bring in new measures when football comes back. Spitting, swapping shirts after matches, sharing water bottles, and even team celebrations are expected to be banned for up to 12 months. I've heard a few things about less than 45-minute halves as well. That came from Greg Dyke as well, which it's crazy to think about. What do you think about those protocols being brought in, and is it going to be the same? I know it's not going to be the same, but is it going to be? Is it something that you want to see, or would you want to wait until football could come back to its natural presence?
I'm really torn about it, to be honest, because in one sense, my football loving side of me is thinking I'd love to see football back on. It's just on the telly and you can't go to games. I would love to see some games being played and watching some live sport again. So in one sense, I'm thinking I would really like to see it, but at the same time, I think there's a bigger picture to look at, and I think there are other considerations to think. Players are potentially putting themselves at risk. The families at risk. There's people that have to be in the stadium, like referees, other officials from the league and etc. TV companies. So people are potentially putting their lives at risk. And I know there will be protocol put in place so they can be socially distant, but there's only so far you can go. Particularly on a football pitch, you can't socially distance on a football pitch.
Exactly.
You can't. Players in a wall can't be socially distanced from a free kick or. So I'm a bit torn about it. I would like to see live sport back on, but I think there are other considerations to make. It isn't the most important thing at the moment, football.
There's obviously, Gary Lineker made that point as well. How are they going to, what's the point in having all of these things, like no shirt swapping, when they're going to be tussling with each other for 90 minutes and they're going to be absolutely scrapping on the pitch? So it remains to be seen how they're going to actually enforce that and whether it will be safe. We know that the players, they're going to be tested as well. But just in case of, in terms of the integrity of the game, which is where I feel that this probably will come into consideration, is if you have less than 45-minute halves, I mean, is it a real football season? And as well, there's going to be players out there that are vulnerable to the disease, such as if they're asthmatic or if they've got diabetes or any underlying health issues, and they won't be able to play. So if you're a team in the relegation zone, or West Ham or anyone, for instance, and they've got, let's say 3 players out who can't play, then surely the integrity of the game gets brought into disrepute there. I don't know how you feel about that.
I think it will either way. I think whether all the players are available or not, I think the integrity of the competition will come under a bit of a debate, because either way, whether football ends up coming back in a month of time or whether it doesn't, the integrity of the competition will always be considered, because there's going to be no fans in the stadium. They're considering playing at neutral venues. That, even without fans in a stadium, you could say there's still a bit of a home advantage to be had for teams at their own stadium. So I think either way, whether they do it or not, there's going to be that bit of a debate. So yeah, at the end of the day, the situation isn't ideal, is it? It's not ideal. Whatever resolution they come up with, there's always going to be some complaints. So I think no matter what they do, whether it's right or wrong, it will have somebody or some group of people saying that it's not the right thing to do. So there's a lot of politics involved, and I think I said it in one of the previous podcasts we've done. I wouldn't like to be the people making these decisions, to be honest.
I've seen a few reports as well that the clubs in and around the relegation zone were forming together and they were going to block Project Restart. And there's a report came out in the last couple of days that the top teams have threatened those clubs that they will just vote to relegate them anyway, should they block that restart. Now that's a big power move from the top clubs. Were you surprised to see the top clubs viciously going after those clubs, or do you think that was always going to happen in a situation like this where each half of the table wants different things?
No, I'm not surprised, to be perfectly honest, because we know the way that football's going now. It's very, very money orientated, isn't it? So if the season doesn't restart, there is a lot of financial implications, not only for clubs, for leagues, for several other stakeholders. So I'll be honest, no, doesn't surprise me, because I think for the clubs at the top, there's a lot to be lost if the season doesn't start again and doesn't get completed. So no, it doesn't surprise me at all, to be honest. But I can see from the other perspective why the other clubs would be wanting to stop the season from starting again, because if they end up clubs like who were at the bottom, Norwich, West Ham, whoever, getting relegated, Aston Villa. I think Aston Villa's the chief executive came out saying it's potentially a £200 million loss if they get relegated, and it is because of all the TV deals and things. So you can see both sides of the argument, can't you, really?
And it's a shame, isn't it? Because those type of teams, home advantage is massive.
Yeah.
Especially towards the end of the season, we always see the relegation candidates do a lot better. How many times have we seen Sunderland pull off a great escape at the end of a Premier League season? And when the crowd really gets behind them, is it going to be the same at a neutral venue with no fans? Everyone's going to be at a disadvantage, and there's always a loser, which is what we've always said. But isn't it a bit sad? I find it really sad when you, as well as a lot of other people, it's clear, isn't it? It's a money-orientated sport now, and I feel like that's the only reason it's going to be brought back is because it's money-orientated. Because we know that there's going to be a lawsuit from someone if it doesn't come back. TV deals pretty much run football. We're talking about people's lives, and for me, it's a little bit sad that this is what football has come to. I don't know whether you feel the same about that.
Yeah, I do, to be honest, to an extent. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I've said, the situation isn't ideal, and I think whatever decision is made by the authorities, I think people are just going to have to accept it and think it isn't ideal circumstances. It's never going to be ideal. If they restart, they don't restart. I think clubs, whether it goes in their favour or not, clubs like Liverpool, Leeds, West Brom potentially coming up from the Championship, teams going down from the Premier League and all the other divisions, at the end of the day, they've just kind of got to accept it and get on with it, because there's always going to be people that aren't happy with whatever decision's made. But yeah, it isn't great, I don't think, for the integrity, the fact that it is money orientated, because it's the only reason that the leagues are going to restart, isn't it? Like you say, the lawsuits that will come in, the contracts that are put in place. I think just a bit of common sense needs to be used with whatever decision is made.
Well, that's what we think anyway about football coming back. A little bit about what's been going on. Let us know in the comments below what you think about football returning. Is it a sad state of affairs to see where football is in terms of being money orientated and a little bit sad? So let us know in the comments below.